Which running back will lead the Dallas Cowboys in rushing this season? We got takes on that and a whole lot more today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate you all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase.
Joe, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Takes on Takes Day to you. And you are the take master, which means you solicited everybody's hot takes. You are responsible for picking which ones come on the show. I have no idea what you picked.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you got any Tiny Chef takes.
No Tiny Chef today.
Well, Pickle floating in. I've been thinking about Tiny Chef a lot this week.
Yeah.
I thought about Tiny Chef since the last time he came up on the show. The one time we got to take about Tiny Chef.
It lasted 2 years, right? So
40-something episodes.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into football. Everybody's here for football, not Tiny Chef talk. But I do have some Tiny Chef memes if anybody wants to hit me up after the fact. You can go ahead.
Noted. All right, football with Oz gets us started with this take. Phil Mafa has the best chance of being a 1,000-yard rusher in Dallas this year, given the opportunity. Jaden Blue isn't built for a large workload, and Williams and Sanders look like shells of themselves. Buying this, the 7th-round pick?
No, I think the body of work of the other guys and the fact that there's guys that have carried loads as far as prominent NFL workload, I think Mafa has a big hill to climb to get into the rotation, personally. So I would sell him being the highest probability. I agree with a lot of what he said, but I just think, 7th round rookie, how do you come in and execute? And that offensive line is going to give you some air to get yards, right? So do you just stay on schedule and those guys that are experienced with just hit the run where it's designed to go? You're probably going to have some productive runs. You might not have explosive plays, but I think that'll be enough.
I think there's going to be a lot of sharing the load for Dallas this year, because unless somebody just claims it and gets hot, I think they'll want to use the variety of skill sets and go from there. I don't think any of them flirt with 1,000 yards, but there could be several that go more than 300. So it's an interesting puzzle to figure out. If you're right about this, you know what to do. Spike the ball.
I actually think Blue has the best chance because of his explosive play nature.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you're not sure that he's a high volume touch guy, but
he's not.
He could rip off some big ones and, boost the yards for sure.
Yeah.
Sloth says 53-man rosters and only 48 active game day players is simply not enough for NFL teams. I would like to see these numbers expand by 3 to 5 players. Injuries are a huge factor in the NFL, but maybe the injuries could be mitigated if teams had more depth options available.
You kind of have this with the practice squad, right?
Well, you have 16
on any given week.
2.
You can elevate 3. You
can elevate 2.
Elevate 2 up to 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to say bigger rosters and more spots is a bad thing for players, especially as there continues to be a bid to add more games. I don't know. I think the counterpoint to the league is you're well into a free agent era of how the game works. And by opening more roster spots, sometimes you already have, this was kind of a rough free agent cycle as is. And if you're opening more roster spots for teams to keep more players for longer and they can spend because the cap continues to go up, what's free agency going to look like if you open an additional 150 roster spots on 53s?
Yeah, I don't know that 5 more players is the right number, but I would love 55-man rosters with 50 active on game day. That something like that feels right. And then you're adding 64 roster spots across the league. I don't know. I don't hate it. I hate injuries and I hate the implications that they have on the game. And so if you could do something like this to help with that, I don't see the downside. So I would go 55-man rosters and 50 active on game day.
Okay. Cool.
Darren says 7 players had 12 or more sacks last season. There will only be 5 this year with nobody having more than 15. So it feels like he's making a take about sack production across the league.
I will go somebody having over 15.
I think so too. I couldn't tell you the last year we didn't have.
I think TJ Watt led the league with 15 2 years ago.
Didn't Trey Hendrickson had 17 and a half last year to lead the league?
Last year, yeah.
What would be the compelling argument for declining sack production?
If you're going to have it was Watt in 2020 led the league with 15 sacks. He had led the league in 23 with 19. Is the argument running the ball becoming more a part of that cycle of light boxes? And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but could that be the catalyst of an argument that sack production league-wide is going to be down?
We had huge sack numbers in the 90s and early 2000s. So,
well, hold on. We had a 4-year stretch in the 2000s where the sack leader had 16, 16, 17, and 15 and a half.
Which is all more than 15.
Yeah.
In an era where they ran the ball more.
We had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year stretch in the 90s where the sack leader had 15, 14, 17 and a half, 14 and a half, 15 and a half, 16 and a half.
It's still an era where if you pass for 3,000 yards in that day and age, that was good. And you still had those relative sack numbers.
What year did we go to 16 games? Was it 78?
Yeah, probably something like that.
And then we had the strike shortened season in 82. All right, since 1995. Okay, let's go 30 years. What's the lowest number a sack leader has had since 1995?
14.
I'm in the process of,
I would guess 14.
Triangulating this right now. That's a good guess, but that was Kevin Green in 1994. He had 14 to lead the league.
So is a lower number than that?
Well, no, that was 1 year outside of the arbitrary date that I just made up in my head.
You got the answer?
14 and a half by Kevin Green in 1996.
So this guy led the league
with the Carolina Panthers. Did we know Kevin Green?
Oh, we sure did. We sure did. Yeah, I was big on Kevin Green for a while. I think he waited way too long to get in the Hall of Fame.
What? So, Rams.
Played for a lot of teams. Yeah.
And then he went to Carolina for 1 year, and then he went to San Francisco for a year, and then went back to Carolina for 2 more years and had 15 and 12 sacks and then retired.
Dude just got sacks all.
You should have kept playing. His last 4 years in the league, 14 and a half, 10 and a half, 15 and 12.
That's some of these guys that are all-time sack leaders. It's what they did late in their career. Everyone gets excited about the pace early. It's what you can do in those mid to late 30s.
I mean, look at JJ Watt's the perfect example of that, right?
Yeah.
Like JJ Watt was tracking of
Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones. Remember those conversations? He's gonna break the record. Okay.
How he finished? Obviously, it was an unceremonious finish for him, but yeah, he went from 19. In 2019, he had 19, And then he only had 16 sacks in his final 3 seasons, and that was it.
Dude,
and his last season was age 32 season.
It comes quick, man. For some of
fast.
these guys. Yeah. All right. My take is coming up next. So sure to stick with us. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. All right, Kyle. So in the spirit of peak off-season banter, there's been a graphic floating around the interwebs that declares every team's most famous fan. Have you seen this?
No.
You haven't seen this. Good.
No, I've seen lots of things that you haven't in the world, and somehow you've seen this and I have not.
Well, I'm surprised that you haven't. So the reason that I have seen this is because based on the conversations that I have with you, my phone thinks that I'm part Dolphins fan, right? So I see a lot of Dolphins stuff. It's offering me apparel, all these things, right?
Yep.
So naturally, my news feeds will be curated to kind of bump up some Dolphins stuff. And there's been a big debate amongst the Dolphins fans because this graphic lists Pitbull as the most famous Miami Dolphins fan, and Dolphins fans are like, it needs to be Darius Rucker. He wrote a song about and included the Dolphins in it, right? Only Want to Be With You, right? It's one of the most famous songs ever. The Dolphins make me cry. Right. My take is they got it right. I like Darius Rucker a million times better than Pitbull. I'm not even sure what the appeal is with Pitbull. But people are fired up about this, Kyle. I think they got it right. I think Pitbull is more famous than Darius Rucker.
Okay. I was going to go off album sales, but the fact that Darius has a solo career and then Hootie and the Blowfish makes this a little bit more complicated.
I've got the piece of evidence that you need.
Okay.
It's Instagram followers.
Oh, this is how they cast artists or actors for movies now, too.
Well,
if you don't have above a certain threshold of Instagram followers, you can't get cast in the movie now. Because they want to have that baked in.
Yeah, you need it. It's huge. It's
promotion
for
the picture. Jurassic World comes out next week, I believe, by the way. I will see you there.
Darius Rucker, 1 million Instagram followers. Pitbull, 11.9. He's more famous. I know we like Darius Rucker more. He's more famous.
And Darius Rucker also just happened to be first, right? Like, him putting it in the song has been around for longer, so that's why Dolphins fans.
Well, and some of the banter that I read, I didn't get caught up in this, but like people are saying, and I don't even know if these are really Dolphins fans. Johnny Depp, Jennifer
Depp
Lowe.
is a Dolphins fan.
So these to me would maybe even be better answers than Pitbull. But if it's Pitbull versus Darius Rucker, it needs to be Pitbull.
Yeah, I think that's probably based off of the social footprint that you have outlined. Probably an accurate statement.
Timber. All right. Weekly
The
Huddle
guy who does Olaf in Frozen is also a Dolphins fan.
I don't know his name.
Josh Gad.
Oh, I saw that name suggested by other people, but I didn't know who he was.
He's going to help do the Spaceballs too.
Terrific.
Have you seen the original Spaceballs?
Not a chance.
Dang. All right. I'll shut up.
Our weekly huddle says the most discussed players at this season's trade deadline will be Chris Olave, Alec Pierce, Breece Hall, and Jacoby Myers. Feels like a good list, right? Contract year skill players. What the theme I think is there. I don't know about Jacoby Myers, but you could see the Raiders not being very good and selling receivers and wide receivers get traded. But feels like a right. You could see all of those being in the conversations, right?
I think that's a good foundational starting point. Do you have any other names you'd want to add? I throw Tyreek Hill out there.
At the deadline?
If the Dolphins have a 2024 type start and they find themselves at 2-6 again.
I think you can always convince me of wide receivers.
Yeah.
I think it's a good list. Steven says the Commanders did very little this offseason to beat the Eagles. They had an old roster last year and got good years out of Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz. Relying on aging personnel again will hurt the team. They needed more trench investments to compete with Philadelphia.
Well, I don't know. We traded for Laramie Tunsil and used our first-round pick on a tackle. So I feel like that's some trench investment, right?
Yeah, it's helpful. The Javon Kinlaw contract stinks.
It's an investment.
Doesn't mean it's a good one.
We got an ascending player in Johnny Newton. I would buy that specifically the defensive front in Washington did not do enough to close the gap. And I think you can make the argument Philly's defensive line will be a lesser version because of attrition, right? They lost Josh Sweat. They lost Milton Williams.
Moro Ojomo, and then the blitz approach of Ojolari and Uche, and
they will be fine. But
I think so too.
It's not. I mean, Williams and Sweat are significant losses. It's still an amazing group, but at least Washington can say we feel like we got better on the offensive line, and maybe Philadelphia lost some talent on the defensive line, so we closed that gap. But on the other side, I don't think they're any closer with their defensive front to challenge. But how many of those players were out there? Especially when you're picking 20, they pick 29? Like,
yeah,
what
they
the
also
opportunity cost that you look at and say, they didn't get this guy that they could have.
I can tell you that I wouldn't have made the moves that they did. I think it's fair to point out Washington is an up-and-coming team that's relying on Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and Marshawn Lattimore to stay healthy. Cosme's going to be out to start the year. I mean, they got some younger players on the offensive line, but I don't love Tunsil. I don't love Debo. I would have went about it differently. I'll say that. I'm not in love with the Commanders offseason.
I did not love their process, but I guess I was more just focused on the second part of the comment. Because I agree with you. I think they kind of doubled down on what they did last year, and they got more aggressive.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like the 22 to a bigger extreme, like the 22 Giants when they went 9-7.
100%. That's a great parallel.
And then they're like, hey, let's trade a top 100 pick for Darren Waller, like late stage Darren Waller, and get aggressive and run everybody back and not ask some hard questions about what certain spots might look like.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it felt like to me. And maybe it'll turn out differently. I'm not saying that it won't. But as far as their offseason approach, that's how it struck me.
Darren's coming in hot. This will be a, if you're right, spike the ball.
Okay.
It says Carson Schlunger will win Defensive Rookie of the Year, while Shedeur Sanders will win Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Browns this season. Lofty expectations, especially the latter part of my take.
Yeah, and Destin Adams and I are doing a hot take series for A to Z, and we did the AFC North. And Destin's hot take was Shedeur Sanders will get more starts than any Cleveland Browns quarterback this year. And I sold that. Like, I don't even think he's going to start the most games. So I don't think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year for Shedeur.
Right, especially with the contenders. I think Joe Flacco is going to be their quarterback
to start the year. But they used a third-round draft choice on Dylan Gabriel. Like,
right.
That, the fact that they had a choice and they picked Dylan Gabriel that weight is not lost on me as
Yeah.
far as what they view they have in their quarterback room. And sometimes you get a guy in there and he blows you away and he blows the doors off and you forget all about it and you strip it all away and the best guy plays. And maybe that's what will happen with Shedeur. When's the last time a stack off-ball linebacker won Defensive Rookie of the Year? I have the answer. I don't know.
It's Kuechly?
Okay, so it's Luke Kuechly in 2012. When's the time before that?
D'Amico Ryans?
It's a good guess, but there were actually 3 in a row that won it in the 3 years after D'Amico Ryans.
Really?
This was the golden era of off-ball linebackers, voters counting tackles.
Patrick Willis.
Patrick Willis won it the year after D'Amico Ryans in 2007. There's a former NFL head coach that won it in 2008.
Really?
He had one very bad year as the head coach of the New England Patriots.
Oh, Gerard Mayo.
Gerard Mayo won it in 2008. And then Brian Cushing won it in 2009.
Kiko Alonso should have won it over Sheldon Richardson in, what was that, 13, 14, something like that?
2013.
Yeah.
Sheldon Richardson won Defensive Rookie of
Snub.
the Year.
Absolute snub. Okay. All right. Coming up next, some cold pizza slander that we need to deal with and a surprise Hall of Famer that I'm looking forward to getting Kyle's thoughts on. Folks, be sure to stick with us. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands.
Yes.
That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab those last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible. And Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the start of the game, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest seat price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I have a spontaneous one. And I saw this earlier in the week doing some content for somebody somewhere along the way. And I just want to ask you, if a quarterback leads the league in completions, passes for 4,717 yards, has 39 touchdowns with 11 interceptions, and then also has running the ball. You got those numbers?
3,900 yards. I mean,
no, it's 4,700 yards.
4,700 yards.
39 touchdowns to 11 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And then an additional 400 yards rushing. That player, the take is that player should probably get at least one vote for MVP, right?
I guess in a vacuum, that sounds right.
Yeah. What if I told you that didn't happen? Do you know what player?
Was it last year?
No. It was Dante Culpepper in 2004. His last year starting with Minnesota.
Wow.
4,717 yards in 2004. 39 touchdowns. An additional 400 yards on the ground. Did not get a single vote for MVP.
I have a trivia question for you.
Okay.
How many times did Drew Brees win NFL MVP?
0, right?
Yeah, dude, I learned that this week. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Very surprised by that. Okay, Michael says...
You don't want to know who prevented him from getting a vote?
In 2004?
Yeah.
Who was it? Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner?
Peyton Manning.
5-time NFL
He had the
MVP.
49 passing touchdowns that year. That's why
that'll help.
That's why
that'll help.
He staved it off. Mike Vick got one vote for MVP. As the only other player that got a single vote.
Michael says this, after watching the NBA draft coverage, it's more evident that Mel Kiper should be a slam dunk candidate for the Hall of Fame since he changed how big and how much better the quality of the NFL draft is. Mel Kiper as a contributor to the game, Hall of Famer. Are you in or not?
I am fielding no Mel Kiper takes until he washes away the bad memories I have of him from this year's draft.
I don't know anything other than the social media stuff. But I mean, come on, the legacy.
Crying about Shedeur Sanders for
it's not great. I mean,
3 hours before he gets drafted while other kids are getting drafted is just, it didn't.
There's a lot of not great moments for Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Is his contributions to the game good enough to be in the Hall of Fame? Steve Sable's in there.
I think his contributions to the game are worthy of at some point induction to the Hall of Fame. Yes.
All right. So you got both sides. You acknowledge that, and
I acknowledge that he's got great contributions, and his approach to this year's draft absolutely sucked. Yes, I got that in.
Michael says, I don't care if I know what the response will be. I swear by this. Cold pizza is awful. Any form of reheating the slice is better than eating it cold. I eat cold pizza because I think any form of heating the pizza back is terrible. So It's best cold.
You mean to tell me who had this take?
Michael.
Michael, you mean to tell me you'd rather stick pizza in the microwave for 20 seconds and bring out warm, wet cardboard with reheated, lukewarm cheese on the top and eat that than just eat it cold?
That's what he's telling you. He's aware of the consequences of the take. It's what he's saying.
Let me ask you this question. When you have cold pizza, do you put the cold pizza in the fridge or do you leave it out? Just leave it in the box and then leave the box in like room temperature. Some people put the box and store it in their oven.
Oh, there's only one answer to this. You put it in sealed Tupperware in the refrigerator.
No.
I mean, you'd be growing bacteria on that pizza sitting on your counter inside the box.
I hate to tell you this, all cheese is filled with that kind of stuff.
I'm not touching that. There's no chance. It's going in and is airtight Tupperware in my refrigerator.
I want to know who room temperatures their cold pizza and who refrigerates their cold pizza.
How about this one?
I want to hear from the people.
Let us know. Alejandro says cheese bread or garlic bread with marinara sauce is the best compliment to pizza. I couldn't disagree more with this.
It's the same thing.
I don't want more bread to go with my bread. Sorry,
cheese with red sauce to go with my bread and cheese and red sauce.
My wife does this too. She'll wanting to order the garlic sticks, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, just more bread. No, I'm all the way out on that. The best compliment to pizza is wings. Sorry, argue with your cat. Crunchy peanut butter. That's the name of the person on Twitter.
Not a food take.
No, this is not. We're over with the food takes. Crunchy Peanut Butter says Maxwell Harrison is the Bills' defensive ceiling this year. The Bills have shown they can trot out middling CB2 play and be okay, Levi Wallace, etc. But if ready, Harrison offers athleticism and coverage flexibility they've never had, starkly different than Trey White or Dane Jackson.
I think that's a reasonable take. I think the front is the ceiling.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's interesting to think like the Bills have always had like one really good corner and then some other guy. And they could have Benford and Hairston, and obviously we need to learn a lot about Hairston, but that would be a lot different than Trey White plus Levi Wallace or Trey White plus Kevin Johnson or Trey White plus whoever, man. Dane Jackson. Be interesting. Jacob says yards per carry is a bad stat, and yet it's still cited like gospel. 160-yard run and 5 1-yard gains is 10.83 yards per carry. Yeah. Except that's 5 unsuccessful runs. Success rate, EPA per rush, and missed tackles force actually tell you if a back is helping your team. I don't think there's a single metric in football that holistically tells you everything you need to know about how good a contribution is.
You could force 2 missed tackles on a play, but if you didn't read it right, you didn't hit the...
Yeah. It's a useful stat. I think there's better stats. I agree. Success rate, EPA per rush, missed tackles forced, yard. I mean, all of that. Those are good metrics too that I care more about than yards per carry. But I think there's probably a good correlation between really good running backs and really good yards per carry.
I think that's fair.
CT Winters says Pittsburgh's reputation of drafting mid to late round receivers like Brown, Bryant, Claypool, Johnson, Pickens is overrated when the constant character issues limit them from maximizing the potential of these players. Even Brown could have become an all-time great with 2 to 3 more years.
I don't know. Antonio Brown had some pretty productive years regardless.
Right.
I think that's the thing that makes Pittsburgh the team that can do that. Is they can take those players who in other places would probably very quickly wear out their welcome, and they can be contributing consistent players. Antonio Brown had 1698, 1834, 1284, 1533, 1297, and that was the back half of his 20s. He had double-digit touchdowns in 4 of those 5 seasons, and the year that he didn't, he had 9. 2 reception titles, 129 and 136. 2 receiving yard titles, led the league in touchdowns in 2018. I still feel like that's an all-time stretch of play at the position.
What do you think he means by overrated? I think the fact that Pittsburgh drafts these guys and gets the best version of these players for whatever length of time, right? There's varying degrees of that within the players mentioned. But then they go somewhere else and are pretty much nothing burgers. I think that makes it completely properly rated. I think that buyer beware is like, hey, if weirdo receivers like leave the Steelers, don't mess with them.
Right. If Pittsburgh calls you to try to trade you a receiver, you should just hang up the phone.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the conversation.
See how George Pickens goes this year, although it's I'll keep my other George Pickens comments to myself.
We'll see how it goes.
Go to your kids' camp would be my advice.
I'm out.
Have a football camp for the youth and decide not to go. Hey, did you see Immaculate Grid added a new category today?
No, I haven't messed with Immaculate Grid in a while. What do they got?
Recorded an INT.
Oh, gosh.
So recorded an INT and is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Who's an offensive player that would go back on Hail Marys and defend and picked off a pass at one point?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Did Randy Moss do it? I mean, Terrell Owens?
Let's find out. Randy Moss.
Randy
Moss, that's correct.
Wow. Okay.
0.4% answer. Sorry to spoil your Immaculate Grids for your Immaculate Gridders out there. That's a grateful.
So I needed I needed a Hall of Famer that recorded an interception?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you just pick a defensive player?
Because that's going to be
you want a okay. Yeah, you want a rare
have a less common answer so you get more points.
Sorry, I haven't done it in so long. Yeah, like anybody could just put Deion Sanders and move on with your life. But the whole point is to get the lowest score. So, hey, we got a sub 0.5 answer there.
You also could have used Randy Moss for either the Vikings or the Raiders, who were the other 2 teams in the same column with recorded an INT as a Hall of Famer. Could have used Randy Moss in any of the 3 spots in that column.
Wow. I'm good. Glad to know you're still rocking the Immaculate Grid. It's fun.
I just happened to click on it here because we were on it on Friday. I don't do it that much. But
all right.
There you go. That's going to do it for us here today. Locked on NFL Scouting. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino. Appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. Make it a great weekend. And we will be back to talk to you all again on Monday.